The 2027 quarterback class is projected to be not only the best, but the deepest class the position has seen since, check notes, 2024, which may seem like just yesterday, but the NFL stands for not for long. And the amount of turnover we see from both coaches and players is just a subtle reminder that what you did yesterday means nothing tomorrow. But that sounds like a lesson on time, and we'll save that for a specific prospect we'll touch on a little later. In the meantime, wubba dub dub to those who celebrate. It is I, the one and only Marquell Fripp-Owens, and this is Who We Watch. A list not necessarily built to reflect positional rankings, but built to project the prospects that I believe have the most to prove and the most to lose heading into this college football season. Like a few SEC quarterbacks looking to right or wrong, or a Manning and a Moore looking to settle the score and redefine what it means to come into your own. And a couple of guys who may or may not be in this class, but if they play their cards right, the world is their oyster. The season has officially changed and summer scouting is in full effect. Now, it's time we turn the heat up a bit. Getting down to business, we start here at number 10. I'm sure you've heard the story of Adonis and Oedipus, but have you heard the story of Chambers? Who says fairy tales are always meant to be happily ever after? And more importantly, who says they shouldn't have sequels? See, after falling just short of his happily ever after, Trinidad Chambers is back for an encore. The question is, however, is that a good thing or a bad thing? See, by no means is that a knock on Chambers, but after forgoing the 2026 quarterback class that many consider to be subpar, to say the least, Chambers now finds himself in the heart of a class that's believed to be one of the better in recent history, which puts us in one of my favorite positions as an evaluator, honestly. Navigating SEC quarterbacks. I mean, the world wants to know, are you Johnny Manziel or are you Joe Burrow? Are you Tim Tebow or are you Cam Newton? You see, while all greatness deserves credit, there's a stark difference between a great Saturday player and a great Sunday player. And there's no question that Trinidad Chambers, like the names listed before him, is undeniable. It was the case whether he was at Ferris State, where he won the Harlan Hill Trophy, the D2 Heisman, and the national championship to match, or at Ole Miss. The thing about Chambers, though, is his greatest strength is also his biggest limitation. His athleticism gives offenses a clear foundation to build around. He's a dynamic playmaker whose legs create problems for defenses both as a runner and outside of the pocket as a passer, which makes it no surprise to see the success he saw in an RPO-heavy offense at Ole Miss that maximized those traits. The challenge, however, is it's difficult to build an offense around a quarterback whose game is primarily driven by his rushing ability and consistently compete at the next level. Eventually, he'll have to prove that he can win from the pocket and elevate in the passing game when his athleticism isn't enough alone. And while Chambers shows great flashes as a passer with great deep accuracy, at this point, however, his game is currently meant for a playground. And operating within the parameters of a true pro-style offense consistently seems to be a work in progress. Now, after falling just short of a national championship appearance, the success this season does or doesn't bring for Chambers will ultimately provide much more than a draft profile. It's the opportunity to embody everything he's built up to this point. It's the opportunity to be everything that he represents. But as for the evaluation, it's the ultimate wild card, ladies and gentlemen. It's hard to see a clear avenue for an undersized run-first quarterback to win at the next level, but being doubted and overcoming is what Chambers is made of. Speaking of being doubted, At number 9, we have Lenor Sellers of South Carolina, a guy that's sure to be the subject of much scrutiny over the next year or so. A year, 12 months, 52 weeks, 365 days, 8,760 hours. It sounds like a lot of time. Yet, in the world of quarterback evaluation, it passes in the blink of an eye. And that's the biggest misconception with time. While it's often simply viewed as just a unit of measurement, for quarterbacks, it's really a measurement of development. Yes, time can be given and taken away, but time has no patience. In fact, time waits for no man. Time can be relentless, but that's only because deep down we all know out of all the unit of measurements, time is the only thing in this world that you can't get back. And that's what makes the evaluation of Lenor Sellers such an enigma. Just a year ago, we were talking about a guy who could potentially be the number one quarterback in the class. I mean, look at him. It's no secret that Sellers possesses a rare blend of size at 6'3" and 240 pounds and speed that represent what the modern day quarterback is supposed to be. Yet, we sit here just 365 days later saying his performance this season could be the difference between a selection on day 1 and day 3. Can't deny it, folks. Sellers is a true fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me type of eval. Measurables and traits are the name of the game, and with his frame, bringing Sellers down is a tall task as a runner and a passer. His abilities as a runner are nothing short of dynamic, and he's proven enough to actually build a true rushing attack around. All of this while Sellers' arm seamlessly generates piercing velocity, showcasing the ability to make some big boy throws from time to time. However, right now the thought of him is currently much better than the actuality. There are strides he has to make from a processing standpoint. But the sad truth is, he just hasn't been allowed the opportunity to develop there. Much of this is due in part to Sellers having the new play caller for the third time in as many seasons, along with an offensive line that allowed 5 sacks a game in 2025, ranking near the bottom 5 of the country. And to be fair, that group should see some improvement this season, but honestly, up is the only direction it can go after last year's showing. Heading into 2026, consistency will be key for Sellers. It's actually kind of ironic, if you ask me, considering a series of inconsistencies surrounding his controversial decision to return to college football, much less to South Carolina. For Sellers, time was once a luxury, man. Now it's become a bit of a necessity. And with not much more allocated to him, I suggest he uses it wisely. Which is exactly why the guy here at number 8 on the list did exactly that. You see, Oregon quarterback Dante Moore understands the NFL draft is the ultimate crapshoot. It's the opportunity for players to take a gamble both on themselves and their abilities to consistently produce at the next level. However, one of the biggest factors in gambling is luck, which the old adage defines as when preparation comes eye to eye with opportunity. And you'd be hard-pressed to find a better opportunity than what Moore forgoed by passing up on the 2026 NFL Draft and the opportunity to go as high as number 2 overall. Hell, opportunities like that are what we like to call once in a lifetime. But maybe, just maybe, the preparation aspect of this conversation shouldn't go unnoticed. I mean, let's do the math here. After starting 5 games as a true freshman in 2023 at UCLA, Moore transferred to Oregon, spending a season as an understudy to Dylan Gabriel before taking the reins of his own and accumulating 15 more starts to his name. This puts Moore at a firm 20 career starts, which is cool, until you consider the fact that there have only been 11 quarterbacks since 2006 who've been drafted in the first round that had 20 or fewer starts to their name. And I mean, don't get me wrong, Moore easily could have found himself in the thick of that conversation. But there's a thin line between Cam Newton or Mark Sanchez, Anthony Richardson or Trey Lance. The point being, their career results have been roller coaster to say the least. Now, after heading into the summer scouting process as my quarterback one, it's fair to assume that Moore would secure a spot at the top entering the season. The trait that stands out the most to me has to be his processing ability. The kid is rarely fooled from a pre to post snap perspective, with the exception of 2 games against Indiana that really gave him a run for his money. Moore delivers the football with great location. While his touch is slightly better when he's attacking the boundary than it is attacking the middle of the field, he's proven the ability to make every throw asked of him and more. You really grow to appreciate his ability on the run. I mean, mostly because his game is predicated around the things that he does throwing the football, but even when he's on the run, he's looking for pass catchers, not pathways. This season for Moore is really just about gaining the necessary experience it seems like the league is trending towards. But the league is such a strange place, though. I'd often say it's a 100-year civil war, but the more things change, the more they stay the same. Which is why when the league finds guys like the number 7 guy that we're watching, we're often reminded that they never sway too far away from the proverbial norm. I mean, standing at 6'4", 230 pounds, USC quarterback Jaden Mayava possesses the prototypical measurables general managers usually salivate at. But word to Adrian Peterson.
When I seen him throw that ball, I was like, oh my God.
Watching Mayava's ability to negate inconsistent offensive line play while dominating the deeper intermediate areas of the field with a quick release and great touch, precision, it's a sight to behold, man. Coming off a season that saw him lead the nation in completions over 20 plus yards with 37, while also leading the Big Ten in passing yards with over 3,700, it's safe to say the bar is set pretty high. In fact, Trojans head coach Lincoln Riley feels the exact same way. And I quote, "He played some really good football for us this last year. And I feel like, honestly, that guy I watched in the spring over here over the last month was a totally different player." So, with this extensive praise, it's left me curious. What does the next step for Mayava look like? Well, for starters, having the opportunity to go from point guard to 2 guard for this USC offense should be fun to watch. Losing 2 offensive stalwarts in Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon won't be easy to overcome, but the skill position players currently in place, paired with Lincoln Riley's often quarterback-friendly system, makes it such a glass half full, half empty conversation. It's easy to believe in Mayava's ability to take the lead based on his body of work. He takes care of the football despite his gunslinger mentality. He doesn't take many negative plays. And that's what makes the second question such an interesting one. How much better could Mayava get if he just got his upper and lower body in sync consistently? Specifically when he's under pressure, where his completion percentage drops from 74.7 when kept clean to 41.9 when under pressure. And while his release is fast, at the next level, defenses are that much faster, and sometimes that's all it takes to blur the line between aggression and arrogance. The opportunity to go from the guy that we win with to the guy we win because of is the next step in the development for Mayava, but for the guy here at number 6 that we're watching, it was basically a birthright. I mean, like any football legacy, blazing your own trail of glory is the most satisfying path to walk. And for Notre Dame quarterback CJ Carr, choosing the Irish adds another layer to that narrative. In a long road of family ties and collegiate history, there's something inherently charged about carving your own space at a program that carries its own tradition. Expectations, hell, emotional gravity. For Carr, it was much less about the name on the back of the jersey and more about whether he can turn this inherited attention into an earned distinction. While writing his own chapter and rather than extending someone else's, But to me, it was probably an extension of what I like to call, or what college football calls, the greatest rivalry that never was. What do I mean? Well, as the paternal grandson of legendary Michigan head coach Lloyd Carr, while also being the maternal grandson of All-American Michigan safety Tom Curtis. Silly me. Should I forget to say that he's also the son of two Michigan attendees, one of which being his father, who was the starting quarterback in the early 90s? Yeah, but sometimes in life, everything isn't always maize and blue. And sometimes, it takes the luck of the Irish to lead you where you need to be. That was pretty fun. Now that all the family drama is out of the way, let's start by saying that CJ Carr is clearly an NFL quarterback. It's easy to look at the skill set and fall in love. I mean, repeatable mechanics that are poetry in motion to watch, the ability to reset and deliver even when a platform isn't stationary, and even some sneaky athleticism. While he isn't the kind of guy you create a rushing identity around, Carr can keep defenses honest when he's willing to. And that's really the big thing for him. Much like a mobile quarterback who can be over-reliant on his legs when the answers are clear, Carr is the complete opposite. There are times where rushing windows are right there and he instead just chooses to throw a pass that's not open. It's frustrating tape sometimes. But at this point in his development, Carr profiles as the type of quarterback that you can win with. He'll operate within the parameters of an offense. He gets the ball out on time and on target. He has a great understanding of what defenses are showing him pre-snap and how it translates to what he's being asked to do. However, the benchmark of the modern day quarterback is how you respond post-snap and if and when a play breaks down. And he's just not there currently. Now, after losing 2 first-round selections in the backfield, there's an expectation that much more will be asked of Carr coming off a season that saw him amass 2,700 yards with 24 touchdowns and just 6 interceptions. Now, with a revamped wide receiver room, he'll have the opportunity to show that he can be the reason a program/franchise takes the next step. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it was pretty refreshing having the opportunity to profile what I believe will be a couple of standard general manager love bugs coming draft season. But here at number 5, it's time we get a bit unorthodox. I mean, after a controversial end to last season, the spotlight's right back to where it belongs. You know what I'm saying? As his first year as the Ohio State starter, Julian Sand threw for more than 3,600 yards and 32 touchdowns, quickly establishing himself as one of the nation's premier passers. If you want to understand the impact of his season, ask Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Ryan Day. They'll all tell you the same thing. You know what I'm saying? This will easily be one of the most polarizing prospects in the draft process. In terms of talent, Sand has all of the things that remind you of the old guard at the position. However, at just 6 feet and a little over 200 pounds on his best day, measurables will be a little bit of an issue for some. For others, maybe not so much, but that's the beauty of draft season. It doesn't do much to quiet that narrative when his arm strength is average at best. But like we said, this is an ode to the old guard. We're not talking about your typical Mannings and Bradys and Rodgers. In fact, walk with me a little bit. I'd like to say we're thinking more of Breeze, Pennington. I'd love to say Flutie, but Sand has this weird infatuation that he needs to ditch and an unwillingness to run. I'm sure fans in Columbus will tell you the same thing. But if you're Julian Sand, why would you? Accuracy is the name of his game, and he does this with pinpoint precision, leading the nation in completion percentage. And believe me, these weren't kiddie throws. This young man is a believer in this arm, even if you aren't. He understands timing, placement, and throwing the spots instead of spaces like you see from most young quarterbacks. There are times you wish he'd be a bit more aggressive, taking shots that are probably there, but he's very meticulous, methodical with his approach. I like to think maybe he's a modern day Drew Brees, a tough ask, but a David amongst Goliaths at the NFL level. Or maybe he's just college football's version of Jimmer Fredette. Highly nuanced, ultra talented, but ultimately just not what the league is looking for. I truly believe no matter what Sand does this season, the conversation surrounding him will always be an acquired taste, to say the least. But just remember, just because you don't like something doesn't mean it's not good. There I go again. Not good. That transition tickled me a bit. I'm sorry. Excuse me, you guys. It's just because the guy we are discussing here at number 4, not good. Well, that wasn't an option he was afforded to have. Yes, let the record show. The evaluation of Texas quarterback Arch Manning was never going to be fair. But you know what they say. If you are what you say you are, a superstar, then have no fear. The camera's here. See, the last name in its own right holds a ton of weight. It carries enough weight in football history that good isn't good enough. In fact, word to Denzel Washington and Remember the Titans, perfection is what I expect. The standard really became a reality the moment Manning took over as the Longhorns' full-time starter. And his first true start came against a team coordinated by Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator Matt Patricia and one of the nation's best defenses. Not exactly a soft landing, I'd say. But that's not where this story is written. Arch, much like his uncles before him, had to go through the rigorous grind of the SEC, had to understand how to navigate the schedule. And while navigating that schedule, everyone has a bug. For Eli, it was both Auburn and LSU. For Uncle Peyton, it was the notorious Florida Gators team, a program that Peyton seamlessly went 0-4 against during his college tenure. The same Florida Gators program that actually gave Arch his first taste of SEC defeat this past season. Talk about a little deja vu. This toppled by a loss to UGA, go Dogs, putting the proverbial nail in the coffin of the University of Texas 2025 season. Arch is kind of set up for something interesting here. See, last season for Arch, it was all about adjusting to the game, making the necessary strides as a passer. But this year, 2026, it's all about proving he is exactly who we believe he is from a mental and physical standpoint. And with rematches with both Florida and Ohio State, both of which that'll be in his own backyard, there's a bit of a redemption arc presented here for Arch. It's fun to see, actually. And it starts early. While I like to think that Arch has to become a bit more consistent from an accuracy standpoint, the flashes are truly phenomenal. I think the root of his inconsistency stem from connecting his bottom half with his top, mostly when his process is rushed. With Arch, sometimes this can result in very errant and erratic throws, but on the other hand, historically speaking, you don't really find players with this last name possessing the athleticism that he does. A dazzling 67-yard run against UTSA is cool, but a 60-yard run against Michigan? Now we're talking. See, traits like these create an element unseen in this family's background. But he also has the regulars you would expect from a Manning. Command of an offense, understanding of defensive schemes, and how to get your guys in and out of position to succeed. Believe it or not, Arch is a true student of the game. Color me surprised. Now, it's time for him to kind of put it all together in a big way, and this season presents the chance for him to do that. For him and this Texas team to reclaim what college football proverbially owes them. but putting it all together is easier said than done. And for the guy we watching here at number 3, I don't think the stakes getting much higher than this. When you talk about the most to prove and most to lose, the conversation starts with upstart Oklahoma State transfer Drew Mestermaker. Now, in terms of NFL draft prospects, Mestermaker is what it's all about, man. A true boom or bust situation here, folks. As we've talked about before, reps, games played, and most importantly, games started are a staple in what evaluators look for. And that doesn't just start at the collegiate level. Those are just the ones we count. So, what if I told you we had a guy here who was a 0-star recruit at the position coming out of high school? Not because he wasn't good, but because he didn't play. 0 career starts. Yes, that's right, you heard that correctly. At least playing quarterback at the varsity level. I mean, that same guy went on to walk on in red shirt for his freshman season. And now here we are at 20 years old with 15 career starts to his name. Drew Mestermaker is inexperienced to say the least. But it's not just 15 career college starts, like we said. 15 career starts since 2020 when he took his last rep as a JV starter as a freshman in high school. This young man hasn't played a lot of football. Yet somehow, some way, the fella found a way to not only lead the nation in passing yards with over 4,300, but also finish second in touchdown passes with over 34. All of this in his first year as a starter at North Texas. However, I'd like to think Mestermaker's second year at the helm would look a little different than his first. Actually, a lot different than his first. For starters, he's found himself a new home in Stillwater as the lead signal caller at Oklahoma State. It presents a huge opportunity for Mestermaker, but also a leap in competition, jumping from the G5 in the American Athletic Conference to the P5 in the Big 12. So, with this information provided to you, how confident do you feel in the Mestermaker heading into this season? Wait. Before you answer that, let's add a bit of missing context. With all that set to change around Mestermaker, he finds comfort heading into year 2 under the tutelage of Eric Moore and a bunch of others. So for starters, he's followed Eric Moore to Oklahoma State upon his hire, and Moore is a bit of an offensive guru to say the least. But following Moore, and most importantly, Mestermaker, are star running back Caleb Hawkins and number 1 receiver Wyatt Young. Dude, we're getting the band back together. The nation's leading offense is taking its powers to the Big 12. Somehow, you can get a sense that Mestermaker is pretty comfortable being uncomfortable. It's kind of the epitome of his game, I'd like to say. His bottom half mechanics are all out of whack. He has happy feet in the pocket, all while his release is a quick flick of the wrist upon delivery. It takes a little second to get there, mostly because he holds the football unusually low, making the entire throwing motion feel, well, uncomfortable. But maybe that's how he likes it. Is it unconventional? Absolutely. But beneath all the unorthodox mechanics is a quarterback with a natural arm talent just begging to be unlocked. And even if it doesn't, the floor provides enough wow moments that leave you begging for more. The sky's the limit for Mestermaker. Ideally, he puts it all together this season, but even if he doesn't, it's hard to bet against the upside and flashes. Upside and flashes. It's going to be something of a bit of a theme as we continue to run through these quarterbacks. In fact, it's exactly why the guy we have here at number 2 is exactly where he is. See, for the last year and a half, it's been nearly impossible to watch NC State games without noticing the physical specimen at quarterback. At 6'6", 213 pounds, CJ Bailey's tantalizing measurables certainly exceed the archetype in what we're all looking for in a franchise quarterback. While Bailey could stand to add some weight, these qualities are just the cover of a book mostly left unwritten and seemingly unopened. I'd like to believe CJ Bailey is college football's best kept secret, a potential hidden gem within the confines of the ACC. Hell, I think his resume speaks for itself up to this point. The face of 3 straight national championship runs or state championship runs for Florida high school powerhouse Charmaine Madonna, a 4-star recruit that honestly could have gone anywhere that he wanted, but he chose to do what many would consider to be the harder path by electing NC State. Carr clearly has no issue looking adversity in the eye and wanting to dance. Hell, in his first career start as a freshman was against a playoff-bound Clemson team where he threw for 204 yards on 16 of 25 passing, 1 touchdown to 1 interception. A modest showing, but something to preview what we was in store for the next season. In fact, in his first year as a starter, Bailey completed 68% of his passes en route to 3,100 yards, 25 touchdowns to just 9 interceptions. So many great flashes, but then you have games like the Duke and the Notre Dame contest where he recorded 6 of those 9 interceptions. The thing right now with Bailey at the moment is just continuing to put it all together. 2026 presents a true welcome to the show opportunity for Bailey. An opportunity to show that he's much closer to what his skill set and resume project, but it's just a work in progress still. The talent just jumps off the screen. I mean, the ball explodes out of his hands effortlessly, especially on deep throws, but just as impressively on the intermediate passes into tight windows that very few quarterbacks in the country would even attempt, let alone complete. The consistency, however, still has to catch up to the talent. At times, his confidence can bleed into overconfidence and his decision-making borderlines recklessness. He trusts his arm so much that he'll attempt throws that most quarterbacks wouldn't even consider. I really feel he wants to be a pocket passer at heart. He operates so well within structure. However, Bailey is blessed with a gift and a curse with his abilities as a gifted runner. Long strides, lanky frame, it makes it difficult for defenses to figure him out as a rusher. Now, despite this talent, I don't think he's quite figured out how to run to pass instead of committing to the obvious, which leads to some clear mechanical issues when throwing on the move. Now, to be honest with you guys, there's a world that we're sitting here talking about CJ Bailey as the number 1 player in this class, or number 1 player at his position. It's going to be hard to top the guy that plays wide receiver. Good luck. But the number 1 player in his position. There's also a world that we're left wanting more, which could lead to him returning for a senior season. The depth in this class could play a factor in their decision, but in terms of upside, those flashes and upside we talked about earlier, Bailey stands head and shoulders above his peers in this class and maybe even the next. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you made it down to this point, first and foremost, I'd like to say thank you for watching. And if you're still watching, the very first edition of Who We Watching, I'd like to say comment the number 1 in the comments so we can see our real day 1 die riders. And for the moment that everyone has all been waiting for. The number 1 quarterback I am most excited to watch heading into this season, we have Darien Mensah of Miami. Earlier in this list, we had a conversation about quarterbacks being undeniable. And outside of the aforementioned Trinidad Chambers, who we used this term for earlier on, there isn't a better quarterback in this class to coin this phrase. Everything this young man touches turns to gold. As a member of the 2024 Tulane team, hitting behind a 9-5 finish was a 7-1 conference record and an appearance in the AAC championship. Man, the American Athletics surely knows how to find some talent, don't they? Anyway, all of that success possible because of an explosive offense spearheaded by Mensah and eventual Oregon transfer running back Mekhi Hughes. Much like Hughes, Mensah followed greener pastures, finding himself as the leader of the Wade Wackos at Duke. It was here Mensah not only became the ACC's leader in passing yards and touchdowns, but also helped lead a Duke program to its first outright ACC title in 63 years and its first in general since 1989. Not too bad for a basketball school, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. Mensah shares a deep passion for basketball in his own right, dating back to his high school playing days, but he was made for the gridiron, made to make history. And let's face it, there aren't many more programs more historic in terms of college football than the Miami Hurricanes. So what happens when you pair the ACC's leading passer with the conference's best team based on rankings and playoff success? Maybe Miami's first ever ACC championship and the elusive national championship? All right. Let's slow down a bit. Let's slow down and start with what exactly does Darien Mensah bring to this Miami offense? Well, for starters, he's shown the ability to win in multiple ways. Mensah wasn't nearly the vertical passer outside of the hashes during his time at Tulane that he became at Duke. In fact, Mensah was only 6 of 24 on vertical shots along the boundary during his lone season as a starter in Tulane, while producing just 4 touchdowns to 4 interceptions on passes 20-plus yards. Instead, Mensah opted to make his money along the intermediate areas of the field, completing 64% of his passes for 10 touchdowns with just 1 interception. However, in 2025, following making the leap to Duke, Mensah was much more productive as a vertical passer with 13 touchdowns to just 2 interceptions on passes 20-plus yards, while continuing to dominate the intermediate area of the field. Now, with the jump to Miami, there's an opportunity to unlock another level of the offense for both parties. For Shannon Dawson and the Miami offense, inserting Mensah gives them the chance to unlock a vertical aspect of the scheme that was deeply missed during the championship run. As for Mensah, look no further than Beck, who last season had over 1,000 yards come from passes between 0 and 9 yards, which is no surprise considering talents like Malachi Tony dominating yard after catch opportunities. We could very well see Mensah become a 3-level threat right before our very eyes this season. And to be honest with you guys, I'm excited to watch it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the first episode of Who We Watching. It was a pleasure to deep dive, talk prospects with you guys, as it always is every time. This quarterback class is bound by potential and expectations, but as we learned today, time is not always on your side. Next time we see each other, we'll be back to talk some wide receivers, but until then, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, or if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, send it to a friend. I'll see you later, twin. Until next time, here at the Philly Blitz.